The story that has gripped the nation began on a cold December morning in 2024. Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, was shot and killed in a targeted attack in Manhattan. The news was shocking, but what followed was even more extraordinary. As police arrested a suspect, a 26-year-old man named Luigi Manginoe, a stunning narrative emerged. Court documents suggested his motive was a deep grievance against for-profit insurers, born from his family's own struggles with the healthcare system. The murder, a brutal act of violence, became a flashpoint for a simmering public anger that had been building for years, an anger directed squarely at the American healthcare industry and its largest player, UnitedHealth Group. The killing did not occur in a vacuum. It came just months after a damning Senate report exposed alarmingly high rates of claim denials by major insurers, with UnitedHealth often singled out. For millions of Americans, the allegations were not just statistics on a page, they were personal battles for life-saving treatments, agonizing phone calls, and mountains of paperwork. Following Thompson's death, this private pain spilled into public view. Protests erupted across the country. People held signs not condemning the alleged killer, but sharing their own horror stories of denied claims. The public's reaction was a stunning rebuke of the system, transforming a tragic murder into a national referendum on healthcare for profit. This wave of outrage was fueled by a sense of shared frustration. The suspect, Manginoe, pleaded not guilty, but his alleged motivations resonated deeply with countless families who felt abandoned by the very companies paid to protect their health. The story dominated news cycles and social media, with personal testimonials of denied care flooding the internet. It seemed that every corner of the country held a story of a parent, a child, or a spouse who had fought a losing battle against an insurance giant's decision. The anger was palpable, and it placed UnitedHealth Group under a microscope, with the public, regulators, and politicians all demanding answers and accountability for its practices. The company found itself in an unprecedented crisis. It wasn't just a corporate scandal, it was a societal reckoning. The death of its CEO, instead of eliciting widespread sympathy for the corporation, had unleashed a torrent of criticism that threatened its very foundation. The public narrative had been set. A powerful corporation was seen as prioritizing profits over the lives of its members. This intense public pressure would force the company to make a dramatic, behind-the-scenes change in its operations. A change that would ultimately lead to another, very different kind of crisis. One that would play out on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Faced with a public relations nightmare and intense regulatory scrutiny, UnitedHealth Group made a pivotal decision. In the weeks and months following Brian Thompson's murder, the company quietly began to change its internal policies. The long-standing, profit-driven strategy of aggressively denying claims started to reverse. Fearing further backlash and potential government intervention, executives seemingly instructed claims processors to approve more procedures and treatments. This was a significant operational shift, a direct response to the immense pressure that had mounted. The floodgates of care, once so carefully controlled, were beginning to open, if only slightly, in a desperate attempt to quell the public fury. This change, however, was not announced. It was a silent retreat from a controversial but highly profitable business model. While on the surface the company maintained its corporate composure, inside, the gears were turning differently. More patients were suddenly finding their requests for medical care approved, a welcome relief for those individuals, but a looming financial problem for the company. Each approved claim represented a cost, an expense that began to add up rapidly. The very engine of UnitedHealth's financial success, keeping healthcare costs low by limiting payouts, was being throttled back. The company was now paying for more care than it had ever anticipated. The consequences of this operational pivot were profound. For years, UnitedHealth's financial forecasts were built on a predictable model of claim denials. Its profit margins and its stock price were dependent on this strict cost containment strategy. By loosening the reins on claim approvals, the company was fundamentally altering its own financial reality. The increased costs from providing more care to its Medicare Advantage members, in particular, began to create a significant gap between its projected earnings and its actual expenses. A storm was gathering on the company's balance sheets, yet to the outside world, especially to its investors, it was business as usual. This disconnect between their internal actions and their public statements would become the central issue. UnitedHealth continued to affirm its optimistic 2025 financial guidance, which had been issued before the crisis unfolded. The company assured Wall Street that its profit targets were on track, even as it was actively spending more money on healthcare services. This decision to withhold crucial information set the stage for a massive financial shock. The silent shift in policy, intended to solve a public relations crisis, was about to create a legal and financial catastrophe that would ultimately cost the company billions and erode the trust of its shareholders. The other shoe dropped on April 17, 2025. On that day, UnitedHealth Group shocked Wall Street by announcing it was drastically cutting its earnings outlook for the year. The company revealed that its costs were much higher than expected, citing an increase in care for its members. The public forecast for earnings per share was slashed from a range of $29.50 to $30 down to $26 to $26.50. The market's reaction was swift and brutal. In a single trading day, UnitedHealth's stock price plummeted by a staggering 22.4%, wiping out billions of dollars in shareholder value. The truth was out. The cost of approving more care was far greater than anyone on the outside had been led to believe. The massive stock drop triggered an immediate and furious response from investors who had been blindsided. On May 7, 2025, a class action lawsuit was filed against UnitedHealth Group, its CEO Andrew Whitty, and its CFO John Rex. The lawsuit alleged that the company had committed securities fraud. The core claim was simple but powerful. The company knew its financial forecasts were no longer achievable after it began approving more claims, but deliberately chose not to inform investors. Shareholders who had purchased stock between December 3, 2024, and April 16, 2025, argued they were misled into buying shares at an artificially inflated price. As the legal battle began, misinformation started to spread online. A persistent and false rumor claimed that BlackRock, UnitedHealth's largest institutional shareholder, was suing the company for giving too much care. This narrative was quickly picked up and shared widely, fitting neatly into the public's cynical view of corporate finance. However, fact-checkers and news organizations repeatedly debunked this claim. The actual lawsuit filed by shareholders was not about the morality of providing care, it was about transparency and financial disclosure. The plaintiffs were not angry that patients received treatment. They were angry that the company allegedly hid the financial impact of that decision. The lawsuit represented a new front in the war against UnitedHealth. The company was already battling public opinion and regulatory probes into its denial practices. Now it was fighting a revolt from its own investors. The legal filing argued that the company had a duty to update its financial guidance as soon as it became clear that the old numbers were unrealistic. By failing to do so, the lawsuit claims, executives protected the stock price in the short term while setting up unsuspecting investors for a catastrophic loss. The scandal had come full circle, from patient suffering to a crisis of confidence on Wall Street. The shareholder lawsuit is just one piece of a much larger legal storm engulfing UnitedHealth Group. The company is also facing a Justice Department investigation and other lawsuits over its alleged use of artificial intelligence to systematically deny care to elderly patients in its Medicare Advantage plans. Adding to the pressure, two whistleblowers, both nurse practitioners, came forward in May 2025 with sworn declarations. They alleged that the company actively worked to delay or deny emergency care for vulnerable nursing home residents, all in an effort to cut costs and boost profits. These explosive allegations prompted calls for further investigation from members of Congress. This cascade of legal and regulatory challenges paints a picture of a system under immense strain. The public outrage that followed the murder of Brian Thompson seems to have opened the floodgates, empowering whistleblowers, emboldening regulators, and giving shareholders a clear cause for action. The company, for its part, has denied the allegations and even filed a defamation lawsuit against a media outlet for its reporting. The departure of CEO Andrew Whitty following the disastrous first-quarter financial report signals a recognition that the old way of doing business is no longer sustainable under such intense public and legal scrutiny. The saga of UnitedHealth Group has evolved from a tragic crime into a complex web of legal battles, financial turmoil, and a profound public debate about the role of profit in healthcare. The shareholder lawsuit focuses on financial disclosures, but it is inextricably linked to the core issue of patient care. The company's decision to approve more claims, the very act that triggered its financial troubles, was a direct result of public anger over denials. This connection highlights the deep-seated tension between a company's duty to its shareholders and its responsibility to the health of its members, a tension that has now reached a breaking point. As the lawsuits and investigations proceed through the justice system, a fundamental question remains. Can these legal actions truly bring about meaningful and lasting reform in the American healthcare system? A successful lawsuit might compensate investors for their financial losses, and regulatory fines might punish the company for its past practices. But will it change the underlying incentives that prioritize profits over patients? Will the outcome lead to a future where claims are judged on medical necessity rather than their impact on a quarterly earnings report? The answer is yet to be written, leaving millions of Americans to watch and wait, hoping that justice in the courtroom can translate into justice in the doctor's office. Now, we want to hear from you. How do you feel about Manginoe's actions and the chain of events they triggered? What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below.